Welcome. I'm Bev Adams. I own an independent paper crafting business showcasing products from Stampin' Up! I made this gorgeous fancy fold card with products from Stampin' Up! I sell these products and also a few items to make crafting more convenient. I have the free detailed directions for this project on my website. I'll also have links for all the products that you might like. If you click the links, you'll be taken to my online store at Stampin' Up! You'll see where to find all of that at the end of this video, so don't worry about taking notes. It's time to put stamps, ink, and paper together. For this card, I'm using Dainty Delight and the coordinating Dainty Delights dies. If you buy them together as a bundle, you'll save yourself 10%. And I'm using the time-worn 3D embossing folder and a greeting. The greeting I used for this one was from Go To Greetings, but I'm showing this card in a class and I was already using Go To Greetings in another card, so I decided to use something fancy. My inks are Starry Sky and Old Olive. And I'm also using some stamping blends. I am using Fresh Freesia, Starry Sky, and I think this is Old Olive. And I do have Dark Mossy Meadow, and I can't remember what I used that for at this point. My cardstock is a full sheet of the Starry Sky, and I'll show you how to cut that up. And you'll be getting a scrap. So I've got the scrap out here just to remind myself. A scrap literally of Early Espresso. A scrap of Dainty Delight. This Old Olive is 4 by 5 1/4. And I have a piece of basic white. This is also 4 by 5 1/4. And I have a couple of pieces from the Dainty Flowers Designer Series paper. And this is paper that you can get during Celebration. I think I'll be posting this video after Celebration, so I'm going to show you a way you can make the same card even if you don't have the Designer Series paper. These two pieces are 1 7/8 by 5 1/4, and then this piece is 3 3/4 by 5. You will also want some linen thread and some Stampin' Dimensionals. Let's start by cutting the card base. I'm going to score this at 5 1/2. And then I want a gatefold, and so half of this is 4 1/4. I want half of that, so that's 2 1/8. And I'm going to start by scoring all the way down. And then it's easier for me to just turn this around and do 2 1/8 on this side as well. And then I want to turn this way so I can get a better look at what I'm doing here. I'm going to cut from this score line down here, and there are lines, and you can kind of see through to see where your score line is. And then you're going to do the same thing on this side, so you're going to line up those score lines again on that center of that track. And I think it's a little scarier to go from this side out because you might accidentally go a little too far. And actually, we do want to go just a little bit further, like less than 1/8 of an inch, a little bit more than 1/16 of an inch. And I probably should have done that. And I didn't do that on this side, so let me do that now. And then we want to cut this off a little bit higher than the 5 1/2. So if we go to 5 1/2, and then we want to scooch that down about that same scant eighth of an inch and cut up to the cut and here. And this is where you get that scrap that I was talking about. And then you're going to fold these in and use the bone folder to get a good crease. You want to be sure that these match in the middle. If they don't match, you can kind of often fold this up a little bit and hold it and just scoot that score line over a bit, but these do match nicely. And that extra eighth of an inch is so that there's room for this to fold over without bunching here. Then we're going to emboss. We're going to emboss that in the time worn. There is already a subtle pattern. I don't know if you can see that. So you don't really need to emboss it, but I think it adds a lot to it. So I'm bringing in my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And I need the number 1 plate. I do not need the number 2 die cutting plate. And this is a 3D folder, so I do need the number 4 embossing plate. All of those sandwiches, I call them, are here, so you can refer to that if you need it. I'm just going to put this in here. This is printing. There are a few words every now and then that you'll spot, but it's not really designed to be words. There is kind of a more blank area, so maybe I'll move this over so a little bit more of the embossing. I want to put the hinge side to go into the machine first. Cover it up and roll it through. And so that kind of emphasizes that pattern there. While I have the machine out, I'm going to go ahead and do my die cutting now. And for the die cutting, I do want the number 2 die cutting plate and a cut up plate and my not so cut up plate. And I'm going to start with the old olive, and I'm going to use this die piece. Let me see if I can move you over a little bit there. I want to put this on here so that I have at least 1/4 of an inch border, but I want it as close as I can get here. And cover that up and roll that through. Isn't that pretty? I just love this piece. It's so delicate and beautiful. And you can actually get 2 of them if you're careful. And again, you need to make sure that you're not cutting into an already cut part and that you still have a 1/4 inch border. And before you roll it through, make one more check. Feel free to throw those tiny scraps away, but we're going to use both this piece and both of these for our card. So then we can pull in our scraps. I don't see my fresh freesia piece, so maybe I didn't tell you we needed it. So fresh freesia, starry sky, daffodil delight, and early espresso. This teeny tiny die cuts out 4 flower centers. And then we're going to cut the daisy-like flower. I think these are black-eyed Susan. And then this piece is what I'm going to use for my fresh freesia. I want that cut twice, and this also cut twice. So cover that up and roll that through. And I have to be honest with you that I'm glad that this cuts out 4 and we only need 2. But these pieces are so tiny, I kept losing them on my desk. So put them where you can find them. This die cuts out 4 separate flowers, and they have a little bit of embossing in them. They're very pretty. So I want a second one of these, a second set of these, and because I think I didn't have the clear top cutting plate on top all the way, I'm going to just cut it out again. I looked again at my list of Stampin' Blends. I don't see where I did use the Mossy Meadow, but I also did use the Pumpkin Pie and the Color Lifter, so I'm bringing those in. So I want to stamp the inside piece, and I'm stamping this big image, and I'm using Old Olive ink, and I'm kind of putting that over to the side here. I'm coloring the leaves with the light Old Olive. And there's some teeny tiny leaves. You can leave those blank or color them in if you'd like. I'm not really doing any shading, but I suppose you could on these larger leaves. And I don't honestly remember which flowers I colored which color, but it doesn't matter. You can color whatever one you want. So you can color as little or as much as you want to there. And then I'm going to put my greeting in the Starry Sky. And I do have a sympathy card I need to make, and so I am going to use that for this card. These 2 pieces go on these parts, and you can use whatever glue you like to use. If you do not have the Designer Series paper, you could certainly stamp this image here. Our embossed flowers are going to go centered on this piece, so we're going to be covering up all of the cut up part, but you just really want to put adhesive on the edges so that you don't have a lot of adhesive to help yourself make a mess if the adhesive goes through the holes here. But I am using my silicone craft mat just in case. And we'll put Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of this. So this goes here. And we're going to put one right side up and one upside down. And there is embossing on this, and if you look really hard, you will see the difference. But I don't think people are going to be looking very hard. So I'm putting adhesive, especially on the thicker parts. And trying to get the ends here, but we're going to be covering up the ends with flowers too, so not a big deal. And when I do this, I'm not squeezing my glue bottle very much. Mostly I'm just using gravity. And we're putting this right over this flower, but we're kind of going to the outside a little bit. We don't want to cover up all of this printing. And I don't want to go beyond the edge, but I do want to go over be on the borders a little bit. So that all those flowers are still very much there. Now you can put all of these flowers on just like they are if you'd like. But I am going to use my Stampin' Blends to color mostly the centers, and this looks awful right now. But we're going to make it a little bit better. For the most part, this center part is going to be covered up. So I'm using Pumpkin Pie on that one. These can stay the way they are. But I'm finding all my fresh freesia flowers, and I'm using the dark fresh freesia. And I'm just going to kind of put a little circle on the inside here where the embossing is. This one's got kind of defining some petals. And then I'm using the color lifter to blend this outside portion. I'm not doing a lot of scrubbing or anything like that. I'm just going to let the I'm just going to let the color lifter do its job. I'm not doing a lot of effort to color in the center part, and if you want to go all the way to the edges, it will blend even better. And I think that that highlights that embossing. Doing a little bit more scrubbing on the outside here. And I'm adding a little dot of adhesive to the flower center. Putting these tiny dots. And there's 2 circles and there's 2 kind of triangle shapes. The triangles have a rounder tip to it, and the way these flowers grow, they have the petals going down and the center kind of goes up above a little bit. So let me see if I can show that to you on the daffodil delight. I think you can see that better there. And then if you want to go a little bit further, you can put these in the palm of your hand or on one of the Stampin' Pierce mats, just to get a little bit of dimension into them. And you can poke these with the embossing tool from the Take Your Pick tool. And you can do the same thing with the daisies too. I do not really like a symmetrical look for these, a little bit semi-symmetrical. So I'm putting these both on the sides, but not opposite each other. I'm putting the daisies, we've got some daisies here, so we want to put some daisies over on this side a little bit. And then scatter these little fresh freesia flowers all up and down. And I'm tying a bow with the linen thread, and I find it easier to tie a larger bow and then make it smaller. But you can make a big bow if you'd like. And we're going to put that on with a glue dot. And so I put the bow on here, and then I squeeze that glue dot so that it kind of pushes the glue dot skinnier. And we'll put that here. There you go. I think this is a gorgeous card. But this video is coming out after Celebration, and maybe you didn't get this gorgeous paper. So I'm going to use a piece of basic white that is the same size. That I am cleaning my stamp. You want to start with a clean stamp here. I want to put this so that it doesn't overlap the center of the card, at least very much. And we're going to just kind of hint at this curve. And I'm going to pick that up. And I'm going to ink this with Old Olive. And stamp. And you might be saying, but Bev, I don't have a stamp to go on this side. That's right, you don't. But if you have a silicone mat, you can do mirror stamping. So we're going to put our silicone mat in the corner, and we're going to ink our stamp again, and we're going to stamp on the silicone mat. And I think you want to not move that, first of all, and also re-ink this 2 or 3 times, depending on how much, how inky your stamp pad is, maybe. And then we want to put this card, and you can kind of see through the silicone mat where that same corner is. And we're going to rub this. If you have Gidget's Gadget, you might want to use that to rub to get a nice even pressure. Or you can use a D-block. Just make sure that none of this moves. And it looks like I did move it a little bit, but when you go to color this, and then especially when you cover it up with some of the flowers, you will not notice that at all. And that's what I did with this one. And so you get a very similar look. So I think you will really want to get the Dainty Delight and the Dainty Delight dies, and maybe the Time Worn Type 3D embossing folder to make yourself a beautiful fun fold card. Here is the web address for this project, where you'll find the free detailed directions and links for the products I used. Just click the links and you'll be taken to my online store at Stampin' Up! Click Home near the top of my page and you'll find lots of resources. Under Shop, you can find the products I offer to make crafting more convenient, how to get free products with my frequent shopper rewards, and a link to my online store at Stampin' Up! Click Inspiration to scroll all my projects back to 2011, most with detailed directions and videos. Though the products in those older projects have been retired, you may find techniques, layouts, or color combinations to inspire you today. If you're new to stamping, you might want to look at the basics. You'll find how to cut card bases and layers, what's special about Stampin' Up! Stamps, and some of my favorite tools. Under Organization, you'll find lots of free resources such as catalog tabs, labels and case inserts, color tools, and much more. You can take a tour of my craft wall. More organization means more time for stamping. You can learn about my Evernote notebook. I have a note for every current product that Stampin' Up! Has for sale right now. And you can sort them all by by the type of product. You can search just for the stamps. You can search just for the designer series paper. You can search for the phrase that you want or an image that you would like to use. You can search by all the colors. You can search all the products that come in a particular color. It really makes finding just exactly what you want very easy. And you can create your own notebook and search through all of the things that you own to find just what you need. Come stamp with me here in Ventura County, California, or get the best deal of all and join my team of crafters. The team is called SIP Together, and it stands for Stamps, Ink, and Paper Together. The team is made of crafters who want to save money on the products they buy, or share a few with friends, or grow a business like mine. Be sure to subscribe to my website and on my YouTube channel. I'd love to hear your comments. Thanks for joining me. Talk to you soon.